All right, and welcome. It is, at the moment of recording, it is February 15th, 2019. And this is the debut video podcast recording for this channel. I myself have been involved in using YouTube for at least a decade. We've reached this point where my awareness of, or my perception of the system, of the algorithm, of the tech giants, it's not at all like what it's presented to be from the mainstream media, as I've seen them facilitate white supremacy while using their algorithm and censorship to even bury our own criticisms of what's taking place in our nation. I'm going to be talking about things that I don't even get into on my own channel because it needs to be said. And we live in a day and age where there is a level of programming where if you tell the truth, it can alienate a whole lot of people. And it won't feel good. It'll hurt. And it has hurt. That's why I left mainstream society. That's why I live in the woods. I'm speaking to you from the woods. I'm speaking to you from somewhere the farthest from the largest, what you're looking at in the image, the areas of light. Now, this grid, which in the modern day and age, we have people addicted to social media. And they did this on purpose. Another reason I'm creating this new YouTube channel, I've dropped so much truth and certain buzzwords on my other channel, I wonder whether it's hurt me in growth. And so I told myself, well, maybe what you need to do is take the message to a new channel and drop the other buzzwords because they're trying to flag us. I'm on a spiritual message to help people wake up from the illusions of separation, regardless of your ethnicity. I'm not on any political side. We're going to start right here and there. I'm not on the left. I'm not on the right. And I see how this medium, including Facebook, has played a role in destabilization. And we need to come to awareness of it. How social media redefines relationships, how it changes and alters them. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen versions of fake news before it got racial. Okay, I'll say that again. I've seen versions of fake news before it got racial, within the conspiratorial sphere, mind you. For example, saying, microchips are coming now, or this, that, and the other. Fake news based on things that could be real. And a global population, sadly, many of them women, but I'm not a misogynist. In fact, I want to help a lot of people achieve a greater level of freedom. And what I see is a system of oppression that a lot of people don't see. They've conditioned us to be at each other's throats instead of see the greater nature of what's taking place. So to address racism, we go also beyond white supremacy. As someone, right, of mixed race heritage, and I've experienced a number of different things, alienation from family, we won't start with the life story, but we will start with introducing to you that racism and what some of us that are extreme minorities have gone through is beyond white supremacy, especially when we've dealt with it from other racial groups, other minorities, maybe even our own family, both our mother and our father side of the family. And that's some bullshit. And we see what they've done to Middle Eastern countries, when you can see even a coalition of different racial groups in America join the U.S. military and, to be frank, stomp in the face of the Middle East until someone or something stops them. But I'm telling you, China's not no hero, not with 1 million Muslims in camps. What we're dealing with, in my opinion, isn't just white supremacy, it's anti-themism. It is the destabilization of the third world, not just Africa, but specifically Middle Eastern countries. Look at the children that are dying at greater numbers in Yemen, starving to death. Why? Is there something to know a little bit deeper about maybe an agenda or a pact between Russia and Trump? I would say that years of my concerns are manifesting now. And this very machine algorithm, the way that it treats this content, it seems to bury it. Well, we're shown in the mainstream and we're shown on CNN. It seems as if, to some, but I know better, it seems as if the people are waking up and all these people are screaming white supremacy and calling out racism, but it's a facade. And it's actually devastating to those people that are actually affected when the facade takes place. When there are things like that unfortunate situation where CNN did not get the facts right about the MAGA kid at the Capitol, and the people are whipped up into a frenzy regarding the Native American and the drum and also the Black Israelites, they leave out certain things and they misrepresent what happens or what happened when other acts of racism, including to people of color, don't get talked about. See, I've been involved in this long enough to understand the media likes to rile up the masses, and they use racism to try to get people to rise up and burn something down so they can have control. And this is deep. This is deep, but it's essentially what's taking place. And a lot of people are whipped up into a lot of anger and a lot of division. I've seen different forms of this, different forms of the divide from political to racial to religious. Hell, my main channel, right? I've seen how they've reacted to me trying to introduce Gnostic spiritual teachings to them. I've seen how who I am and what I am has attracted, whether I like it or not, a certain amount of people that are going to dislike my videos and hate me no matter what I say because of who I am. And I reached this level of gnosis within. I'd say over the course of the last week, and my other channel started back in 2006. Yeah, and I'm a long way from home. So I'm living somewhere out there in rural America. And I want to reach people. Now, if you want to contribute to my work, I'm going to create this as a separate platform that's specifically going to address the problems of racism in our society and how we can overcome, how, in the words of Nellie Fuller Jr., we can produce justice. To me, this is a spiritual mission. This is a greater cause than the other political causes, let alone the people that are obsessed with, what the world's going to look like in 30 years or 40 years and 50 years. A lot of those people are on a very dark path. And I can touch upon it, to be honest with you, about where I really see this coming from. It's coming from that which some people might call Satan, that which some people might call the dark ETs, that which some people might call the archons. I'm not trying to overwhelm you, but we are facing something, such a great threat. It's also important that you understand the history of human sacrifice at some point, that we can address maybe in the future various levels of human history that we know of that may play a part in the clues that we need to look at the history of these sacrifices to perhaps particular deities. And when we look at the mythologies of the world, we see different legends and mythos about various creators that created various humanoids in various parts of the planet. I don't have all the answers and I'm not religious, but there does seem to be some tampering with the human species that goes way back. I'm simply here to plant the seed or ask the question without going too deep now and keeping us mainly on point. Is there something about the fall of the ancient world that has led to also the type of global government situation that we're also in now, not to use the buzzwords, right? As we see the clampdown on the internet, as we're becoming aware of these global realities, manufactured conflicts and events. Algorithms and artificial intelligence that wants to come in and gatekeep as we start waking up. I see ways in which they have divided us. I've seen ways in which they've worked to create echo chambers in which we're bouncing ideas, we're bouncing concepts back and forth within controlled echo chambers based on how we're categorized by the social media. And one cannot say that we didn't bring it upon ourselves, that this isn't something that doesn't happen. No, it's something that naturally happens. That's what goes down when we put all of our eggs in one basket. And then people get surprised, although, it's not right what they've done to us when we've been shadow banned. That's why I quit Facebook and other things. Also, the disinformation. So the thing is, if you really want to clean up your mind, you got to step back from some of those social media platforms, specifically Facebook, due to their facilitation of such wickedness. I want to kind of, start out focusing mostly on this concept, though, of the facade, but it's difficult to leave out spiritual concepts or other ideas like mind control. I want to think maybe let's just not go there right away, but how can we not? So with Facebook, and they admitted this at least 6 years ago, they've been experimenting with people's emotions, with people's thoughts. And of course, you have the surveillance, you have the microphone, you have the webcam, and then there's what they can do with that. And then other questions, well, who's really surveilling us? What's really going on here on this petri dish? And I think those are the larger questions. People are actually diverted on the internet, by the way, into things like flat earth and other distortions, even within the belief system of quote unquote flat earth. Then philosophically, they could be spending plenty of time asking more of the deeper questions about the simulation then that we're in, or the matrix. Why are we here? Or the holographic universe, or the electric universe, as some people call it. Why are we here? What is the purpose of this existence? And not to be obsessed or overconsumed with that which is on the projector, and looking at how we change the projection itself, that which is projecting onto the wall, as David Icke would say. And I've seen, as a person involved in researching interesting topics, there was a rise in people after Bush came into office and after that event that led to these wars, that were screaming from the rooftops that our nation was already taken over by the Fourth Reich. Even Alex Jones himself, others. And it was like they made it okay for people to talk about it at a certain point, and they switched things up. And the people didn't change, but the Pied Pipers did. The Alex Joneses of the world did. As Donald Trump emerges and tries to campaign on a platform of being anti-war, try to campaign on a platform of other things. And then at the same time also telling the truth as to what he was about. As the crowd roared with excitement, and thrill, as he screamed, "Get him out, get him out." And what I watched, as I watched with all of these presidents, it's like I criticized Obama. I wasn't a part of his support base, not because he was black, but because of the foreign policy, because he was a part of the same system. So I learned to understand over the years, these people are like guild actors. I was saying this 10 years ago. They're like guild actors. It's not real. They're placed in power. And if something is being done, it's being done deliberately to send a message to the masses. Now, you might hear CNN say something similar to me, only they're batting for the Democrats. And this is the reality America continues to be in. As the wars continue, the Democrats act like they're the good guys and the good girls. And I'm not saying that I'm here to be at war with Democrats. I think there needs to be peace between independents and Democrats. But there needs to be acknowledgement about the corruption that exists on both sides. Because there's a lot of people out there, and now I'm old enough now, nearly 40, in which I've seen nothing but this: Democrats versus Republicans, instead of actually deal with the actual issues, the actual poverty, the actual wars, the actual racial tensions, the actual mind control, media monopoly, the actual issues, have and have nots. And I look at the world today, and people are still balkanized. And there are some people that are just like, you know what? I don't even want to know what's going on in the news. Don't tell me. Then people like us that seem to know too much, we can be perceived as the enemy. Someone's going to kill their beer buzz. And people wonder why I left the West Coast, why I left the place where the party was. I saw the writing on the wall. And now as I look at YouTube and I look at Portland, I look at other things, I see the writing on the wall. I see the what is. And I'm going, oh shit. And I think there were a couple of years off from things really melting down, but I think that people should be, in my neck of the woods and elsewhere, whether you're urban or rural, I don't want to speak to a specific area, but simply the nation and the world. People should be way more connected than they are. I don't want to overdo this on this first episode, but people need to work to become connected again. One of the things that I'm going to do is leave my email, and maybe some basic dialogue can be developed about going beyond judging each other over certain belief systems and understanding the threats that come from the illusions of separation, which, by the way, goes beyond racism. It includes classism. It includes other forms of discrimination. We're being taught by the evil of this world to hate each other and to go to war against each other. And I feel that intuitively. And it's like, if I have to go around my own platform in order to say the truth, so I'm not harassed, in order to plant the seeds, and those of you that are going to receive the message, synchronicity, then yes. Is there something powerful about helping people overcome the illusions of separation, even overcoming fear of persecution? In future episodes, don't forget to subscribe. The future episodes will go into things like that, having faith in the universe, going beyond religion, understanding there's a powerful web of life, and it's more powerful than that little grid that we're taught to worship. And you know what? One day, if that grid was to go down, we would see healing in human relationships between man and woman. It wouldn't all be like tapped in all the time on social media, constantly being told this group's coming after you, or this event took place, or this bombing took place. It would be about the people around you if the lights were to really go out. And through an event like that, society could change overnight. I'm convinced of it. I've been speaking of it. It's almost like a vision within my mind. I don't know if it'll happen within my lifetime, but an event coming from the sun specific, something that would disrupt all the world's militaries, not simply EMP only, but a major solar event. We would see a restoration. We would see such and we're getting closer now. If you look in the direction of spaceweather.gov, in spaceweather.com, you can see when the sun is active and when it's not, but we're in a solar minimum, meaning during those times we're more vulnerable to shock waves from the sun, coronal mass ejections, things of that nature, because of the Earth's weakening magnetic field during a solar minimum, where it's stronger when the sun's more active during solar maximum. A little hard to explain in just a minute or so, but there's periods in which we're more vulnerable to a major solar event, and we're entering more so into that period and into the 2020s. And even world militaries are preparing. So it's interesting that we're in an age where they've got so much of society hooked to the smartphone and technology and their own little private world. And yet there is such a focus within the world of politics for people to be fighting each other and talking about a civil war. And race being a number one topic, yet instead of there being healing amongst even so-called the victims and those being against, i.e. white supremacy, or some people exclusively are just against Trump, this is something that's beyond Trump. I've experienced like the left-wing side of white supremacy. Making this about Trump is not even beginning to get on the solution, and I don't support him. But making him like the sole like focus or crux of the discussion is a straw man argument. There are things like, ethnocentric behavior where people on the left can respond to ideas, people, things with a sense of disgust because it's a biological imperative. That's not to say that they're automatically racist for having a biological imperative through hundreds to thousands of years of a particular way of looking at a particular people or a particular behavior or a particular element of tribalism. But one of the things that I've seen in being in a rural area is my misconceptions about others, other fellow Americans, shattered in front of my very face. My thought was just get the person out of Babylon, and nature just kind of has an automatic healing. We can take the person out of Babylon. It can't take Babylon and Babylon's programming necessarily out of the person unless there's work done. So you have people in nature addicted to their smartphones, addicted to fake news, addicted to particular personalities. You actually have the elements for extreme radicalization of rural gangs, brigades, things of that nature. And I've seen that element in ways I'm not going to talk about for my own safety, in which in recent years, the radicalization online combined with fake news, combined with social media, has made it very easy for people that don't even know how to make their own website or article, people that can't even write, to formulate full-on social media groups in secret, where they can organize, do meetups, and have flash mobs. And it's the technology is helping people become more dangerous hunters and killers, as opposed to the technology waking them up to the nature of reality. And that's what's terrifying. There are real things like trajectories, where you have charts where things are going up and things are going down, plummeting, escalating. We do have an escalation of hate crimes now in recent years, and it's going on an upward trend. And then there's also now a backlash to anyone that would actually say anything. It's called snowflake. It's called the guilt trip to the quote unquote social justice warrior. Worse yet, anyone against the Trump administration is automatically being considered Antifa. which they're also calling domestic terrorists. If you've ever studied comment sections on major breaking world events, and most of you have, you see that 95% of the comments, to all in some cases, are from the right-wing lunatic side. If you go right now and listen to my video and you go look at alt-right Age of Rage, it's a documentary about Charlottesville. Look at how many dislikes are overshadowing the likes. So while we could see protests in the streets and people can feel relaxed in your own little comfort zone in America thinking the left is winning, in reality on the internet side, the right-wing side is winning by far. And people, want to stay away from conspiracy theories in their own mind in order to not be considered crazy. But this is probably the last time to be putting aside concerns about shadowy figures, whoever they are, powerful forces in around government and others, driving some of these patriot movements. And even early on in my life, ladies and gentlemen, on my main platform, I called out the Black Bloc. There were signs of agent provocateur activity on that side. So my work was featured at one point on InfoWars. Alex Jones was a more legitimate guy back then, but it seems that he was in the hands of the feds the whole time. And it's like when people look at Alex Jones and are presented with Alex Jones, they are being told he's a conspiracy theorist instead of someone that has been duping the people for a long time and flip 180. They don't tell him that. They make it about him being a conspiracy theory. They make it about him challenging the 9/11 narrative, but they don't talk about the real evil and how he threw his own people under the bus, people that supported him, people that believed him. He really changed. So a person that came out as kind of grassroots kind of has now gone into a more right-wing white supremacy direction. And so because of Alex Jones, they can use people like him to basically make it so people will never talk about certain issues ever again because they'll be associated with him. That's where the left has failed. And so if anything, like a coach is going to be screaming at his football players, I'm not into football, right? But it's like, this is somewhat of a game. And it's like, I'm not left or right, but there are ways in which the left, elements of it, wants to stand against white supremacy and fails to do so or seem to be authentic with its inability to look at overt acts of racism and mass acts of genocide and killing in which both Democrats and Republicans have allowed. So we have a slave think here in the United States. It's very fucked up. And even if someone does succumb to, okay, I'm going to vote for the lesser of two evils, that doesn't mean that you got to live your life acting like a religious member. Nowhere when you vote does it then say, now everything that you say and do is going to be based on left and right. Okay, so you place your vote. It was what it was. What are you doing to make America a better place? Because right now, and that's why this channel was started, what I see is an America in which the right wing's going to win by far. The left doesn't even know it's going to hit them because there is no real divide. There's only one system, ladies and gentlemen, that runs this system, that runs this nation. There's one system. Right? It's two wings of the same vulture. And some of that basic knowledge and information about the left-right paradigm that you were exposed to a decade ago or 20 years ago is very valid today. When you look at Donald Trump, a reality TV show host who's hooking up with a guy like Alex Jones that was presented to be an underdog. We're talking like crusty VHS tapes sold at gun shows, anything but establishment boy. Unless, of course, there's something to the idea of the government infiltrating our peoples, our media, in order to direct revolutions on the left and the right so they can maintain control. And right now, what I see? I see a control over both elements of the resistance to Trump and, of course, control over Trump himself. Well, the people just receive like one-sided narratives. On the right side, they get a narrative of an evil pedo, deep state Pizzagate cabal of leftists and immigrants and Muslims and feminists and will hurt their president. You know what I mean? It's pretty fucked up. And they're being told that they need to commit acts of violence. And they're saying this on YouTube, and YouTube's allowing it. And some of these people are they're obviously being protected. I've done a lot of studying. We don't need to get into all the details in this first episode about how minorities in Portland are being used by white supremacists for their agenda. There's clearly got to be some major payoffs going on behind the scenes because of the people they allow around them, the white nationalists around them, the neo-Nazis around them. And then when Joey Gibbs and others, they're confronted with it, they're like, hey, there's no races here. This guy over here, he's an islander. Me, I'm like half white, half Japanese, he's saying. And yet they're being used for others. And people can't even see how this formula is carried out. But that formula that's carried out is used by people on the left and the right. It's not exclusively right wing. And so if people really want to clean house and start to deal with these issues, they have to deal with and address what are called token minorities. They have to identify and address what I just called to be anti-themism. They also have to identify and address when misogyny as a label is misused against men. What if there's a white girl that's promoting white supremacy and we're criticizing her using her sex appeal, like Haley Adams, who founded the Him Too movement, which is there to counter the claims of the Me Too movement and claim all these women are lying? How about a little bit of balance instead of this infighting over two, Me Too, Him Too? That's insane. There's like an evil in this world that just finds a way to divide us over race, over politics, over economics, over what you're watching on YouTube, over where you ate today, over whether you're a vegan or not. This is going into hysterical levels. And right now I'm thinking I got to try to reach out and pray that this message reaches the people and reaches a new stream of consciousness in this first video recording done in the woods using a little heater. My feet are barefoot at the moment. My feet were frozen earlier. We just got like 14 feet of inches of snow. I'm snowed in. And after 15 years of activism, seeing like my greatest concerns like manifesting, and eventually 4 nations marching on the soil. But before that, what this channel is about, the destabilization of America from within, is what's going down now. We can see it coast to coast. We can see how they're acting like they're gonna stop Alex Jones and white supremacy on the internet. Instead, they're censoring our fucking internet to shut our voice up. What are they planning for us? What are they doing to us now? How many of those are going to come across my content in this channel? Because for far too long, I'm going to try to come up with a conclusion now. They've used this race card to divide us in the awakening. And so far, they've won. I know there's urban areas where there's people that may identify with the left or the individual path, but they're in urban areas. On the rule side of things, I've experienced very little of that. And there has to be this acknowledgement that they have attempted to box people into the cities. In other videos on my main channel, I've talked about the off-grid movement. I've talked about the danger of being boxed into cities. I've talked about the ridiculous cost of rent, cost of living in the cities. I talk about the future of human trafficking that I think will rock the West Coast of the United States under wartime, under occupation. And how a lot of these things, including violent pornography, there's lots of things that are being dropped on society now to fuck it up and get it thinking about the wrong things, and then get people fighting each other as it's already being programmed to think about the wrong things. And so things are building. Then the movies come out. They have these dark horror themes to it. And then you have people act like they're standing against white supremacy. So the rest of the media and everybody else, especially when they're being demonetized, they'll stand by while CNN takes it by the reins. CNN is not innocent. CNN played up a huge role in playing up the perceived Muslim threat. And so there's ways in which CNN has always been a part of the establishment. And so, yes, there is reporting going on that does seem to be good at CNN, but it's still part of the show, featuring guild actors. There are wild card moves, and there weren't when Obama was in office. Everything Obama did, everything that Trump is doing. If you really want to understand the system that allows this type of ridiculous behavior to go on, you need to understand at step one how all the presidents are controlled. If this is going to be an issue of contention, then forever people are enslaved by this constant looking forward to the next few years or fearing the next 4 years and being enslaved to the political cycle. And the political cycle has ultimately enslaved the people. I will be back with more. There's an email down below. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to add a PayPal in time so people can donate to this broadcast. We need to get this message out there.
The most popular